Friends, as time moves forward, many things transform, and with them, the challenges we face also evolve. New challenges bring new solutions, and as time progresses, it's important that we recognize and understand those solutions as well. One of the biggest challenges we face today is distraction, our inability to manage time effectively and maintain productivity. To tackle this modern-day issue, the fresh concept we'll be exploring today isn't time management, but rather mind management. Today's book summary is Mind Management, Not Time Management: Productivity When Creativity Matters by David Kadavi. He's not just an author, but also a podcaster. David helps people become more productive in their creative pursuits. His books have sold over 1 million copies, and he's been featured on platforms like TEDx, The Post, and Observer. So here's the thing. Many books and speakers often talk about optimizing your time. They'll tell you to follow a schedule, use techniques, make plans. But the reality is, managing your time has little to do with actually finishing things. What really matters is how you manage your mind. This summary is here to guide you through some straightforward yet powerful techniques to help you manage your mind more effectively. So let's begin. Today's book summary is Mind Management, Not Time Management: Productivity When Creativity Matters by David Kadavi. Just look around you. Everyone seems to be constantly hustling to make money. That's why it's important to use each second wisely. To earn money, people overload their calendars with tasks, leaving no space for rest. And these days, multitasking is common too. That means doing multiple things at once, like replying to emails while eating lunch. Is this the hustle culture that everyone proudly associates with? Is being constantly tired, frustrated, or anxious becoming the norm? This summary will reveal why traditional time management has lost its value, and why relying on it might not get you anywhere. You'll discover how mind management can help you succeed and complete any task. You'll also learn that there's no need to constantly rush to achieve your goals. Managing your mind is a far more effective approach than just trying to manage your schedule. So let's dive in. In the first chapter of Mind Management, Not Time Management, author David Kadavi shares how he never saw himself as a writer. Writing wasn't something he enjoyed as a kid, but one day he got a book offer, an opportunity no sane person would turn down. That's when David began to reorganize his life so he could write. He made sure he carved out ample time for writing. He canceled dinners, skipped plans with friends, and replaced those moments with writing sessions. He even paused dating altogether. Groceries and food, he had them delivered. He poured his energy into staying focused on completing his book. A writer's mind is full of words. They know how to play with words. But when it came time to write, David couldn't even get a word down. It wasn't natural or effortless for him. He'd sit in front of the screen for hours. Soon, the pressure began building. He had to complete 25% of the book within a few weeks and send it to the publisher. Failing to meet the deadline could mean losing the deal. David didn't want to let his family or friends down. In frustration, he decided to attend a retreat in Costa Rica. He was well aware that he probably wouldn't get any writing done there. So did he regret saying yes to the retreat? Of course he did. But he also hoped that the change of environment might break his writer's block. After accepting the retreat invitation, David was filled with regret. Still, he packed up and left home. He needed to escape his frustration. On the road, he met Diego. From across the street, Diego called out to him as if they were old friends. He motioned for David to come over. Then they began chatting in Spanish. David didn't want to seem clueless, so he responded. As they talked, David learned Diego simply wanted to chat about the little joys of life, walking on the beach, the rainy season. Their conversation was brief, but afterward, David felt surprisingly uplifted. When he returned home, he sat back down at his computer. Within the next hour, he successfully wrote the first chapter. That moment brought clarity to David. He realized the breakthrough hadn't come from carving out time. Time management hadn't helped. What mattered was being in the right mental state to write. That, according to David, is mind management. Mind management means giving your creative energy the priority it needs. But if done wrong, it can lead to wasted time. Ever stared at a long to-do list and felt completely unmotivated? We've all been there. Still, with mind management, you can overcome this struggle. Mind management means viewing a task or problem from a fresh angle. In time management, the question you ask is, what can I do right now? And often that's where hesitation begins. You're aware you need to do something, but the focus and drive just aren't there. In contrast with mind management, you ask, what kind of task matches my current mood? Or, how can I align my mood with the task? The most effective way to get work done is to match your mental state with the nature of the task. This helps avoid wasting vital resources like time and energy. Now let's move to the next chapter, the creative sweet spot. Creativity doesn't come easily or automatically. You can't just pick it up like groceries from the store. Creativity takes time to emerge. Whether it's storytelling, songwriting, or painting, your mental state has to be just right for the process to flow. To tap into creativity, David uses two types of thinking: divergent thinking and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking happens when your mind is bouncing across different ideas. You're exploring multiple possibilities. Then comes convergent thinking, which is about narrowing down and connecting those scattered ideas. Think about writing, for instance. You want to express something, but there are countless ways to say it. Do you want it to sound formal or more casual, like a chat with a friend? Do you want to reveal your identity or keep it anonymous? All of that falls under divergent thinking. When you finally pick one approach, that's convergent thinking. Let's say you want to write about your first love. You choose a friendly tone and decide not to sign your name because you want to keep your identity private. That's how divergent and convergent thinking work together to shape a strong creative idea. To produce outstanding creative work, you need great ideas. But how do you find them? By discovering your creative sweet spot. Your creative spot is the ideal time and place where your mind is at its best creatively. Creative tasks don't follow a manual. Logic and formulas don't apply here. Creative work is driven by a special process we call insight. Neuroscientists describe insight as a sudden shift in perception. It's that eureka moment when something just clicks, when tears of joy might fill your eyes. Ever had a brilliant idea strike out of nowhere? That's a eureka moment. Maybe you're stuck while writing a song and suddenly the missing lyrics pop into your head. Or you're thinking of painting again but aren't sure what. Then, out of the blue, the image of your favorite cartoon character comes to mind. That spark is a eureka moment, and it can help you access your creative zone. Remember, this isn't about choosing between mind management or time management. Your energy levels shift throughout the day. Just like work drains you, so does socializing, painting, or working on a novel. The key is identifying the time of day when you have the highest energy. You also need to maintain your internal system, your sleep cycle. This internal rhythm helps you stay alert during the day. Picture it as a rising line. The longer you're awake, the more alert you become, until your sleep debt starts pulling you down. Lack of proper rest adds to your sleep debt, decreasing your energy. Think of sleep debt as a declining line. It saps your alertness. This drop often hits around 2:30 p.m., which is why you feel sluggish in the afternoon. Knowing your body clock lets you plan your work more effectively. Many people are most focused in the morning. For instance, top violinists spend the first 2 to 4 hours of their day practicing. Famous writer Virginia Woolf and psychologist B.F. Skinner followed similar routines. Mornings are when people tend to be most awake and mentally sharp. To identify your creative sweet spot, David shares a technique called the first hour rule. This is a discipline method for getting important work done. When you dedicate the very first hour of your day to your most important project, you're following this rule. The key is, it shouldn't be just any project. It needs to be the one that matters most to you. This habit helps you finish your project faster. Now, you might wonder, can I really do this? The answer is, absolutely yes. Start your day with the task that matters most, the one you know must be done. Doing this reduces the chances of laziness creeping in. It also helps you avoid the common obstacles that usually slow you down. Now that you've absorbed this crucial insight, let's move on to the next chapter, the 4 stages of creativity. Even when you're not actively painting or writing, your creative process is still at work. Creativity isn't just the act, it's also the build-up. This is what social psychologist Graham Wallace refers to as the 4 stages of creativity. The first stage is preparation. This is when you begin thinking deeply about your project, imagining the characters for your story, deciding how long your song will be, or choosing the materials for your painting. It's the brainstorming phase. At this stage, you gather so much information that you practically become a walking encyclopedia. David started his book this way. He'd sit in his living room surrounded by open books, newspapers, and journals with a whiteboard full of possible chapters and topics. None of that research was wasted. It was setting the foundation for the next stage of the creative process. Stage 2 is incubation. This is when you're not actively working on your project. You might be doing something else, spending time with friends or working on unrelated tasks. Taking breaks is necessary. Forcing yourself to finish something too quickly often leads to frustration. It blocks your ability to enter your creative zone and makes it harder to reach the third stage. Stage 3 is illumination. This is your eureka moment, when a great idea suddenly clicks. This phase is difficult to explain because it happens unpredictably. But here's the thing. If you haven't put in the work during the first stage, this moment might never come. Let's look at Paul McCartney from the Beatles. He came up with the melody for the iconic song, "Yesterday in a Dream." As soon as he woke up, he rushed to the piano and started playing it. But that melody didn't appear out of nowhere. Paul had been writing and making music for years. That preparation is what allowed such a powerful idea to surface overnight. Stage 4 is verification. This is when you critically evaluate your eureka idea to make sure it's solid and original. Paul McCartney didn't assume his song was new. He wasn't sure if the melody had come from his own imagination or if he'd accidentally copied it from somewhere. At that time, there were no apps or tools to check for originality. So he spent more than a year confirming that the melody was indeed his. During that time, he polished the song, revising its lyrics, refining the melody, and perfecting the arrangement. Without giving time and care to each of these 4 stages, you won't create something extraordinary. Every masterpiece goes through this journey. Now let's explore the next section, the 7 mental states of creative work. David didn't follow a rigid routine, but he had favorite places and habits that helped him get into a creative mood. For example, he liked going to the 19th floor of the John Hancock Center with a small notebook in hand. At first, his thoughts were scattered, but once he started writing, everything began to organize itself. That space helped him turn random ideas into structured content. He also loved writing at a cafe called Absento Coffee. The atmosphere, the scent of coffee beans, it all made it a perfect creative spot. Like David, you too can tailor your work style to your mental state. These are the 7 types of mental states you can experience during creative work. Prioritized mental state. This is when you make a clear plan. You decide what you need to do, what your goals are, and what really matters. It's about setting priorities, just like David did in the John Hancock Center. Experimental mental state. This isn't about structured research. Instead, it's about freely exploring your curiosity without feeling guilty about it. For example, you start thinking about what to paint and end up watching a whole documentary on the history of painting. That's you giving space to your creative instinct. Research mental state. Here, you look for specific answers to specific questions. David spent a lot of time in this state, researching how to build better chapters, verifying facts for his book, and ensuring his content was accurate. General mental state. This is the actual doing phase. You use all the inspiration, research, and exploration from the earlier stages to create. This is when you write your first draft, sketch a painting, or compose a rough version of your song. Polished mental state. This stage is all about editing and refining. You go back to what you created and make improvements. For example, you might restructure a sentence for better meaning or refine the melody in your song. In painting, the polished mental state means carefully checking your canvas, ensuring there are no empty spaces, and adjusting any color that needs to be brighter or more subtle. Sixth is the administrative mental state. Creativity can't be your only focus. Life brings other responsibilities, like paying bills, doing chores, or spending time with loved ones. This mental state helps you stay balanced, making sure no area of your life is ignored. Finally, there's the recharged mental state. This is when you allow yourself to rest and refresh. Take a break, go on vacation, or simply do something relaxing. When David felt burned out from working on his book, he'd go for a massage. Sometimes even watching a comedy or light movie helped him reset his mind. Finding your personal way to recharge is key. David had a rather unusual creative routine. He would work from midnight to 4 a.m., fully immersed in his book. Then he'd turn off the lights, shut down his computer, and sleep until noon. In the afternoon, he'd head to his favorite cafe and continue writing until closing time. This was David's creative cycle, a repeating rhythm of productivity and rest. And it didn't follow a strict clock. Sometimes it played out over days, weeks, or even across seasons. Let's take another example. Bat. She liked doing the preparation stage at night. The calm and silence helped her gather lots of ideas. When she slept, she entered the incubation phase, letting her mind rest. In the morning, during breakfast, she often experienced illumination, a flash of inspiration. Once, she got the perfect lyrics for her song and quickly wrote them down on a tissue. She then spent the afternoon refining it, changing words, picking the best instruments, and making everything sound just right. You too can find your own creative cycle. It just takes some self-awareness and experimentation. Next up, creative systems. Once, David faced a real challenge. He had to record an interview with Dr. Rock, his idol and author of Your Brain at Work, a book that deeply influenced him. But everything went wrong that day. His apartment was under construction, filled with noise, hardly ideal for podcast recording. He had just moved to Panama City and didn't know where to find a quiet spot. Rescheduling with someone like Dr. Rock was nearly impossible. It seemed like the podcast would have to be canceled. But instead of giving up, David activated his creative system. He emailed Dr. Rock and started problem solving. Somehow solutions began to appear, and eventually the podcast was recorded successfully. A creative system is like an umbrella. It covers the entire creative process, helping you move forward even when things go wrong. It keeps you grounded and focused, even when you're low on time or motivation. One of the simplest components of a creative system is the minimum creative dose. This is the smallest thing you can do to keep your creativity alive. For a writer, it might be just one paragraph a day. That small win helps you feel accomplished, so you can focus on other priorities without guilt. Another concept is the open loop. Imagine feeding your cat and noticing that the food is almost finished. You make a mental note to buy more. This lingering task, until completed, is an open loop. Open loops might seem distracting, but they're actually powerful. They keep your mind engaged, nudging you to return and finish what you started. Let's go back to the writer example. Writing a single paragraph creates a loop in your brain, something incomplete that your mind wants to revisit. Even if you can't write all day, that small start keeps you connected to your project and prevents creative guilt. And the best part? You can have multiple open loops. One might relate to the plot of your story, another to a character's backstory. These loops help keep your ideas alive and evolving, piece by piece. Your creative system keeps you from making excuses. You can't say you don't have time, because all it takes is a few minutes of your minimum creative dose to keep moving forward. And now, it's time for the conclusion, a recap of everything you've learned in this video series. First, you learned what mind management is. It's about creating the right mental state for the task at hand. Instead of forcing yourself, ask, what kind of work am I in the mood to do? And then align your work accordingly. Second, you discovered how to find your creative sweet spot. By applying devotion, honor, conversion, and thinking, you can trigger those magical eureka moments, bursts of creativity that feel like sudden success. You also learned to recognize your most productive time. For many, that's the early morning when the world is quiet and free of distractions. Third, you explored the 4 stages of creativity: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. Each one plays a vital role in turning an idea into a masterpiece. Skipping a stage only slows your growth. Fourth, you learned about the 7 mental states that support creativity: prioritize, explore, research, generate, polish, administrate, and recharge. These states help you smoothly move through the stages of creativity. Fifth, you understood the idea of a creative cycle, a rhythm that blends focused work and necessary rest. Whether your cycle lasts days, weeks, or months, it helps you stay consistent and inspired. Sixth, you learned about your creative system, the structure behind your process. It supports your creative cycle and helps guide you through the stages of creativity. It teaches you how to take action even when you're overwhelmed or unsure. In today's fast-moving world, everyone seems to be rushing, but there is a different kind of joy, a deeper fulfillment that comes from moving slowly and intentionally. Remember, great things take time. As the old saying goes, those who wait for something big will receive something big. Even the Vedas teach us, patience brings true victory. In this age of distractions, if you want to increase your creativity and stay focused, these tools and insights you've learned will be invaluable. Use them, live them, and watch your creative life transform.